Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Today, we are speaking with April Shprintz. April is the founder of Driven Outcomes, creator of the Generosity Culture, host of the Winning Mindset Mastery podcast, author of Magic Blue Rocks, speaker, and proud Air Force veteran, which I love. April, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
We're going to have a great conversation around mindset. But before we get into that, April, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, sure. So, as you said, I am a veteran and have been doing quite a few things since then. My overarching purpose, if you will, is to find every way in the world that I can help others and specifically help them help themselves, which is why there is such a focus on mindset, because it is the number one ROI thing I've ever done in my life. And for as many years as I can remember, has been the number one thing that I could do to impact others. So I want to share that as much as possible.
Outstanding. And I love that mission. And folks, if you don't realize, your mind is where the battles are lost and won, right? This is the little space we call the brain, where if it's set on one thing, it can't go to the other, right? And sometimes we do flip flop. So as we're getting into this conversation of getting your mind set, April, what role do core beliefs and values have on mindset?
Well, I think that everybody has different core beliefs and different ways that they believe and see things, but most of those are going to support your mindset. If you have a core belief to be of service, if you have a core belief of integrity, if you have a core belief of empowering others, those are all going to influence your mindset and the way that you approach everything that has to do with your life. So to me, they just layer on and enrich it.
When you're thinking about how you relate to the things that are going on in your mind, I usually refer to it as either a healthy or unhealthy relationship with those things. But April, how does self-awareness benefit a healthy mindset?
So, self awareness is key, and it's really the first step to developing a mindset that really works for and empowers you. And it can be a little painful because as soon as you start developing that self awareness, it's almost an informed unhappiness, if you will. Not dissimilar to when you learn a new sport or a new hobby, right? You go into it and you're blissfully ignorant of your level of skill. Same thing with mindset. You're blissfully ignorant about the fact that you tend to choose your thoughts by default. You're not being intentional about them. So whatever happens to you dictates your mood and how you react and how you really experience the world around you. The self-awareness part is one, realizing the tremendous power we have, which is we can choose our thoughts and we can choose the way that we look at situations, which determines so much of how we're going to feel about the situation, how we're going to show up in it, and whether or not it ultimately ends up being something that happened for us instead of to us, which is much more powerful. The other thing that it does is allow us to see those areas where we're not helping ourselves with our thoughts. Our thoughts are detrimental. And then we can start to take the steps to change those, which is incredibly powerful because many people will say that the world that you experience outside of yourself is simply a reflection of the world within, which is your thoughts and the way that you choose to focus your mind.
And speaking about ignorance and detrimental thoughts, those type of things tend to lead us down roads of setbacks and challenges. So, how will having a good mindset help me overcome those things?
Well, I like to characterize it more so as an empowering mindset or a growth mindset, or even as I deem it on my podcast, a winning mindset, because it's not that you're good or bad, right? It's that you are on a spectrum of behaviors and thoughts that either work for you or don't really work for you. And when they're not really working for you, that's usually what people refer to as a fixed mindset. And I don't think anybody is one or the other. I believe we are all on a spectrum depending on the subject. And the example I always give is that I have a growth mindset about anything to do with, growing your finances, growing your business, your relationships. But if you get me on the top of a big ski mountain and you say, April, I'm going to need you to snowboard down this, you're going to see me get into a fixed mindset really quickly where I'm not going to want to mess up. I'm going to be afraid that I'm going to get hurt. And so there really is that spectrum of things that we're battling against. Now, what we can do to improve that mindset is, one, like you said, self-awareness. Notice where we are doing things that aren't working for us. And our emotions are key, because when you're thinking in a way that does not empower and benefit you, you don't feel good. And it is the most reliable thing in the world, because you may not realize that you feel afraid or that you feel angry, but you don't feel good. And that's the first step in then reframing and seeing if there's another objective way you can look at that situation that makes you feel better in the moment, and also allows you then to find solutions you wouldn't have found otherwise, because you get what you focus on. So if you're focused on the problem, all you're going to see are more problems. But if you're focused on reframing it and how is this working out for me, then the solutions are much more easy to grasp.
Now, there's a difference between fixed and being present, right? And a lot of
Sure.
times we require folks that are aiming to be influential to be present. So, how is being present a good thing for strengthening your mindset?
Well, I think being present is incredibly important because, again, you want to have that intentional thought. You want to intentionally focus on listening to the others that are around you and that they're speaking. And you want to be aware and present about the information that you're letting come into your mind. So, what's interesting is when you're doing other things, especially, words that you hear, conversations, etc., can have a tremendous impact on your mindset without you even knowing it. So, for example, and when I say you're busy, let's say you're driving a car and you're on the phone with someone that you know, and they are complaining about six different things. They're complaining about the economy, they're complaining about the weather, they're complaining about anything they can think about. Because your mind is not fully present in the conversation, so you can't throw out some of those thoughts that maybe aren't your belief, they are getting right in there to your unconscious mind. And so you may find when you get off the phone, you're in a really bad place. You feel terrible, but it's not even your own thoughts, it's that other person. I feel the same way about a lot of news. So I'm not someone who turns on CNN and has it on in the background, or Fox News, or any of the networks, because if it bleeds, it leads. And the highest revenue for advertising dollars news is what is the scariest and the most scandalous. So being present for me is being really intentional about the way that I digest information, whether it's from other people or news sources or anything else out there.
No, I truly believe that because I had a situation where I gave attention to a conversation, and at the end of it, I utterly felt drained. I mean, I was
Yeah.
like so drained that I was at the point of being sick. And so I do believe that there is some impact in giving way to those conversations. But let's talk about impact, because once I have a good mindset, and not in good, maybe healthy,
One
positive
that
mindset,
empowers you.
right? Yeah,
You got it.
exactly. How would that impact my future goals and aspirations? Because that is a point of trajectory once we get there.
Absolutely. So, in more ways than we probably have time to talk about, Enrique, but the biggest one is this: when you have a mindset that works for you, you start to understand your own personal power, because directing your thoughts really makes things that other people would say is impossible possible for you. Because I believe that there's not a thing in the world that we think of to do that isn't possible for us. We've just got to figure out the how of it. But the thing about having a mindset that really empowers you is that you don't focus so much on the how. You trust that that's going to come. You focus on what it is that you want. And as you're focused on that and you're really thinking about how amazing it will be to have that achievement, hit that goal, do the thing that is so important to you, you're going to notice that your unconscious mind, which I love to refer to as an unpaid assistant, right? Your unconscious mind is handling some really big stuff, right? It's beating your heart, it's breathing for your lungs, it's, handling all your cell regeneration. So this is an unpaid assistant of the utmost skill set. Well, you start focusing on visualizing, thinking about that goal. Your unconscious mind then remembers and realizes it's important to you and starts pointing out things to you that are important. An opportunity you might have overlooked otherwise, a connection you might want to make, because that's going to be the first step in getting to where you want to get. So it's like having someone who is there to help you all the time, doing things for you, whether you're thinking about it in that moment or not. And it also helps you enjoy the process even more. And the benefit of enjoying the process is that everything that you want, whether it seems to or it actually does, feels like it's coming to you much more quickly. It's the difference between a day at work when you're watching the clock and it's like, it's been 3 hours and it's been like 15 minutes. And those days when you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's time to go home. Having a mindset that really works for you and empowers you makes your entire life feel like that.
I totally agree. And speaking about goals and aspirations, you wrote a book that I would love for you to speak about briefly, and also anything that you may have been coming up that we would want to attend or be part of. And how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to entertain a conversation or get your services?
The first one, Magic Blue Rocks, is really my story, broken into 6 short stories of different things that I learned along the way, sometimes by falling flat on my face, but I promise you it was funny. And it is a book that helps you cultivate self belief. And self belief is so important. And it's really an underlying foundation of our mindset work. Because once we know that anything is possible for us, we just have to figure it out along the way, how we're going to make it possible. We become unstoppable. And that's really what the purpose is of Magic Blue Rocks. So I have a lot of different things coming up. People can find out about those on my website, but also what I would love for people to do is listen to the Winning Mindset Mastery podcast. Each episode is 10 minutes or less, and they are how-to episodes. Because one of the things that I found that people struggle with the most, and I certainly did in the beginning, is I want a great mindset, but I don't know how to do that. So I share exercises and tips and ways that people can develop that mindset every week in really short episodes, because I have a short attention span. And so the most that we can get out of a short period of time to me is a big bonus. And the last one, I am all over social media and people can absolutely reach out to me that way. And one of the things I've chosen to do is that's always me, that no one's doing that for me. So you'll reach me personally. And you can also reach out to me again through my website, which is drivenoutcomes.com. That talks about all of these different options, has a few free resources on it for folks as well.
I love it. Now, folks, we will have all of that information as part of the show notes and video so you could get a hold of the book, the podcast, and the website. April, thank you so much for sharing this time and the topic covered. I really appreciate what you're doing and your service. Go Air Force. I spend a lot of time on Air Force bases, although I am Navy myself. But
That's all
folks,
right. We like everyone, all veterans.
that's right. That's right. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, and Harchester, London. And if you've enjoyed today's episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know. We are always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you'd like featured on the podcast or would like to sponsor our show, we'd love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.